Welcome back, everyone. Alsumidaie with the Clinical Trial Vanguard, and I'm here at the Veeva R&D and Quality Summit here in Copenhagen. And I'm here with the pleasure of Rinke Riezebos, who is the team lead of clinical data provisioning and interim manager of data intelligence at Princess Máxima Center for Pediatric Oncology. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. So I understand you're just starting to implement some Veeva systems.
Correct.
And at Princess Máxima, you guys are pediatric oncology, rare disease focus, and families are waiting for studies to open so their children can get those life-saving treatments.
Correct.
What does that pressure look like from inside your team from a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So for a day-to-day basis, it's really my team. So I'm leading several teams: statisticians, clinical data managers, and the data scientists. And everybody is really focused on getting these trials up and running as fast as possible. Like you said, by being able to do these trials, we are able to provide as a center drugs that are not regularly on the market. But through these trials, we can give it to the patients and hopefully can help them get better.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of hope with those patients and the families.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And when you look at what your team actually spends time on each week, where is the sponsor-driven friction costing you the most, and where is that challenge the most for you guys?
Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Sure. So when your study team is spending time running clinical research, right? Could you tell me perhaps about where the breakdown is between operations, communications, systems management, data management, between the sponsor and the study site?
Yeah. So I think what is unique in our center, we are a sponsor and a site. So we have the Trial and Data Center, a department running all clinical trials at our center, consisting of around 130 people. It's therefore really important to communicate within the different teams that run clinical trials. We have trial managers who are leading the different projects. We have clinical data managers who are setting up the databases. We have, of course, the PIs who are responsible, and we're usually setting up the studies or doing the discussions with pharma. And then on the side part, we have local data managers, research nurses, and such. So with every site, you always have to train. Having both the site and the sponsor in the same center also really helps us, because we can get early feedback as a sponsor, early feedback from our site. But we have a close collaboration, but at the same time we are really separated. So we are also on different floors because, of course, a site should be separated from its sponsor.
Mm-hmm. And how do technology systems help with better oversight and enhancing easing that friction between you and the investigators that you work with?
Yeah. Where systems can help us is having a clear insight in the data quality. So we are working on several areas, getting better insight in the data and the data oversight, but also on data standardization. And that's a Maxima-wide collaboration that we do between site and the sponsor. Mm-hmm. And my vision as a team lead clinical data provisioning for clinical data managers is also to be able to provide participating sites with insight in their own data. What I see now is that as a site, you send in the data. As a sponsor, you review the data, send back with a query. I think we can optimize that process by providing different sites with more and better tools, give them more control and insights on their own data, and also help them with standardization process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you do work with the industry as well.
Correct. Yeah.
And so what separates the sponsors your team genuinely want to work with from those who make studies, a little harder than they need to be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, and this is definitely not my work, but the work as a whole department and the heads of the department, I think what we showed and we're able to do is really run a clinical trial. We have the academic expertise in the house. We also have close collaboration within Europe. We are one of the bigger centers, but we closely collaborate with other parties and sites in Europe, and also in networks there. And I think that is allows us to stand out compared to other parties. Having that close collaboration, having the knowledge of the academic settings, understanding the healthcare setting really well. Yeah, that really helps. Yeah.
That really does help. And so, as I run study sites as well, and one of the biggest complaints that the PIs have is that training takes so much time, and there's so many different systems that are used for training.
Yes.
And it's oftentimes the monitor has to come also, and they give you like a 4-hour slide deck.
Yeah.
What would actually prepare your team to enroll patients faster and more confidently using these technology systems rather than having to rely on having a monitor come out, do the training?
Yeah. I think we as sites, but also the vendors, we should collaborate more. Work more based, looking into standards. I know Veeva is, I'm really interested in eSource, for example. These kind of tools can help sites to look into and work more efficient. But I think we have to standardize. And that is about speaking the same language. That's not only IT, but it's about speaking the same language, communication, organization, and processes, and align those. And I think once we have standardized those processes and not try to invent the wheel every time again and again, I think that will really help us to work more efficient and do more efficient clinical trials. That's hard. It's about it's not about the IT. It's more about communicating and trusting each other and willing to trust each other. But once we are able to create such a pipeline, standardized process and standardized data flow, I think it will be less needed to have clinical data managers to send that many queries as we do now. And also there will be less need for monitors. The way we will work is look more at the processes and less at the separate data elements.
And so as a sponsor and a study site, you're really in a unique position, right? And oftentimes what I've found when I ran studies at large institutions, Mount Sinai, for example, we used to sort of design the protocol while working with the vice chairs of various departments to identify where the workflow issues are in study design. And then we go back and we optimize the protocol to fit into the structure of the organization. How does that work for you at Princess Máxima?
Yeah. So, well, we have the luxury, we have both site and sponsor in-house, so we closely collaborate on these kind of elements. Together with the PI and the sponsor, we try also the clinical data managers to try to include them immediately from the start when writing the study protocol to assure, like, okay, can this be built? Can we adhere to standard ECRFs forms that we have? Researchers like to collect a lot of data, but it's not always necessary for the aim of the study. So having that discussion up front rather than slightly after the start of a study is really helpful, and also optimizes the speed of the trial.
And can you tell me about a moment when something a sponsor did better, faster, more thoughtfully changed what your team could do for patients when you worked with the industry?
I think industry has a lot of expertise and a lot of focused teams that are specialized in a specific area. We, as an academic center, a research hospital, most people wear different hats. So we don't have the luxury to be able to grow as big as bigger sponsors. But I think in that sense, me as a team, the clinical data professional, I'm always looking at how are we organized? Is this really the most efficient way, or should we specialize more into teams? And I think that's what we are doing. So I have a clinical data management team consisting of around 18 people. I see now over the years we are growing into more separate sub-teams where we have a bit more and more specialization.
And what's the one thing sponsors should stop doing today if they want sites like Princess Máxima to choose to run their next trial?
Oh, that's a good question. Listen to your sites, listen to your partners, and try to collaborate together, and not just push what you think that is necessary. But in my experience so far, that's quite often the case.
Thank you so much, Rinke.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.